Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the HR Leaders Podcast, the show where we explore the future of work with industry experts and HR executives from the world's leading global brands. On today's show, we're going to be talking about how Kellogg's created a workplace environment that accelerates employee engagement and performance. I'm joined by Sanjay Patel, Vice President of Global Total Rewards at Kellogg's. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm well, Chris. How are you?
Not too bad. It's Friday, so
love it.
And there's a few weeks before Christmas. So it's, and we were just talking about before the show that just before we came online, I managed to get my new addition to the shelf. I'm here for Mandalorian. So I'm glad at least someone recognizes what it was.
Well, I won't do any spoilers here, but there's a name to the Baby Yoda.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that spoiler. Yeah, we won't do it because we've already been told off by our producer already. So we'll be good. We'll be good. Where are you tuning in from today? Whereabouts?
Chris, I'm in northern Florida in the U.S. I actually live in Chicago, but like many other people, my children are in remote learning, and obviously, many organizations in the U.S. I'm remote. For the time being during the pandemic. So we really needed a change of pace here, get out of the monotony of our home in Chicago. And by the way, it's much warmer here. So we're really enjoying some nicer weather. So we decided to take a couple weeks, rented a house here. So this is not my background. This is the rental home, but we're so happy to be here and having some good weather.
It must be so nice just to have a change of scenery. I think we're all going to be sick of our own apartments, houses by now. I know I am.
For sure.
Yeah.
We're fortunate to be able to get the opportunity to do this. So it's great.
Yeah, well, enjoy it. Before we go any further, tell everyone a little bit more about yourself and your background and journey to where we are today at Kellogg's.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick little bio here. So I'm currently the vice president, as you mentioned, Global Total Rewards. So my purview for the organization, very humbly, is to lead and manage the total health of our employees, right? And so that's things from emotional, social, physical, and financial health. So it's a broad purview, and we love to think that we partner with our employees to address those areas of health. But I've been with the organization for a couple years, and before that I had similar roles. You'll see one common thread in my background. I like working for large, complex, global, branded companies. So I had some time in a similar role at Caterpillar construction organization, and then before that, I was actually in the food industry as well with Kraft Foods. And Chris, before I actually started those opportunities, I was spent 10 years in the consulting world at what's now Willis Towers Watson. So kind of been in a couple places here, a little mixture of kind of in-house corporate and in the consulting world.
Okay, so talking of Star Wars again, you were in the dark side.
Yes.
To the other side as well. What made you? Just a bit off topic, but why did you move from consulting to being a practitioner? What drove that decision?
Well, geez, I love my time in consulting because you're working with so many global organizations, and the variety of problem solving you get to do is just immense. But I really wanted to just really touch one organization and really dive into some of the issues and apply some of my problem solving to one organization and see it through and see the power and the impact. Right. Consulting's great, but oftentimes you don't see really the output. And so I wanted to be able to be a little more hands-on and see that.
I hear that so much, by the way. What you just said is that they love consulting, but just not being able to see it come to life and the impact that it has. It's like you do all of that work and you don't really see the end result as well. So I've heard that from so many of your peers. When you joined Kellogg's, what did the kind of reward landscape look like? What were some of the challenges that you were faced with? Was there a particular reason you were brought in? Kind of give us that overview.
Yeah. I think some of the big challenges, it's a great organization, strong culture. Strong leadership. I think one of the things that intrigued me about the opportunity was just sort of what I said, right, was about really going in and changing a little bit about how we think about rewards, right? And so, and I think the organization really wanted something like that, right? And, and I think many of the people that will be listening here can relate to this. but we traditionally think of total rewards as compensation and benefits, right? It's your compensation, which has roots in pay for performance, and then we have this lineup of benefits that we offer to employees, and it's good way to go employees, but it's very company centric in many ways, in my opinion. And one of the things that we wanted to do at Kellogg was make a very employee centric total health framework where we're really focusing on all these areas of health. So it was an opportunity to get a lot more comprehensive on the offerings, where, I'm in spaces now that are just much broader than just compensation and, traditional benefits. We get into a lot of work. I'll talk a lot about recognition and social health and, community work that the organization does, because it contributes to your social health, as an example. So the opportunities were really broad to be able to really change the way we think about total rewards, and we've gone to our employees already, and it's resonated quite well.
When you was making those decisions of going on this new journey with the team, where did you start? What was the starting point? Because a lot of people I'm sure there's a lot of people nodding right now, watching, saying, yes, we completely agree with you. But many of them are in a position where there's kind of the market, there's a million new shiny objects being thrown at them. There's a lot of noise. How did you and the team decide on the direction? And then from there, what are some of the key requirements you had and some of the questions that you're asking?
Yeah, so great question. I mean, we started with, obviously, we need to come at people with a framework, right? And so I would say, look, we've got a lot of diverse needs in the organization, right? I mean, we're in over 100 countries, and what's important to people is different. A lot of diverse needs, Chris. Right? As you know, you can argue how many generations are in the workforce. It's something like 5 or 6. I know people, far better experts know this better than I do, but just a lot of diverse needs, right? And we just had to get out of the mold of saying, hey, one size fits all. We needed to just be a lot more flexible. And, one of the things we're going to be doing is putting more choice into the mix. But, just start with a framework, start with a commitment to the organization about, how we're going to engage them through total rewards. And, I know one of the big things we'll talk about is recognition. I mean, look, it's different in some ways. And I think there's, hey, have to work with your questions that you have to answer is a lot of, well, why is this going to be different? How is this going to be different? Mm-hmm. Your HR leaders, your executives are asking a lot of these questions. So it was a good journey. And, so we started with a framework, right? And a commitment, kind of statements out there to the organization. And then we really, kind of doubled down on, how things are going to be different, what different programs we're going to put in, and recognition was a really big one in this case.
Well, let's jump into that then. Why was recognition so important? And tell us more about what you're doing. I know you're still on the journey. It's never going to end.
Yeah, we are. We are. So maybe I could paint a little picture of, kind of where it was at the time, right? And so I think, I would say about it was very traditional in approach, right? So top down, so senior leader, rewarding a lower level person in the organization. It was very cash based. The bar to get the recognition was high, right? I mean, we looked at it and we said, 1% to 2% of the population really get this. This is not a frequent thing, right? And so your recognition really was, your annual incentive if you were eligible for that, and then periodic cash, recognition opportunities, which really hit like 1% to 2% of our population. So it was really occasional, very, very personal. So it was between manager, leader, and employee. So it was really kind of this closed off, okay, well, we're not really telling everyone what happened. It was a lot of just, between leader and manager. So I mean, it was, and I think a lot of people can relate to kind of the either it might still exist in the organization today, or, that's where a lot of people came from. So, we kind of looked at the opportunity and said, and by the way, on top of all that, our scores when we survey employees were a little bit low on the recognition front. And, we do a good job of asking employees how they're feeling, but in this particular case, very low low scores on the engagement. So we were really looking for a solution, a really big step change in this case. And happy to talk about, kind of where, what that translated into.
Yeah, and you also mentioned when we first spoke as well that the solution you had in place, it was kind of varied via region. There was very consistent as well, and you didn't have any really kind of global perspective.
That's right. I mean, every region, perhaps every business unit country had kind of their own way to do it, and there wasn't much cross recognition, right? And we are beyond the point, right, where I know a lot of companies talk about how global we are, but we're beyond that point, right? We need to be acting more global day to day, right? And so that was another big objective, was to try to make this a big global tool.
Yeah, and something that we should mention as well, that this was really driven by your new CEO, wasn't it?
That's right. We had a new CEO come in, and let's see, early 2018, and so we're really driven by a leader, someone who wanted to make sure that we are building that culture of engagement, and we're going to do it through recognition. So a lot of support from our CEO and all of our senior executives, our CHRO as well, just to really invest in recognition, and we put dollars behind it.
Yeah, and that always helps, by the way, as I was mentioning that point. Especially if you've got the CEO and your CHRO fully engaged and bought. So you kind of So what's the next steps you took then? You're now kind of out there looking at different solutions.
Yeah.
What are some of the requirements? So for everyone, I know this is obviously going to be specific business to business. For you, what were some of the requirements? These are the must-haves that we need in a solution.
Yeah, so we talked about one of them, which is global, right? We wanted a tool that can be global, a platform that could accommodate, people all around the world, right? So that was job number one. Number two, we had to have something that had a social health, right? I talked about one of the pillars of total health. We had to have something that was social by nature, right? Something that would amplify the message to the organization. So we really wanted, a tool that would allow us to be able to amplify the great things employees were doing in the organization, and we wanted everyone to hear it. The other big thing is, fundamentally, we wanted to get away from cash recognition, right? And I know a lot of people, you hear this. Cash is king. It's the thing people desire the most. And I don't disagree with that at all, Chris. But one of the things that we challenged ourselves was to say, hey, look, people forget about that after 3 months, a year. We're trying to make a magical moment for people, right? And so we wanted to tie this, and we had heard about these types of programs where, you take your recognition and you purchase something for yourself. So I'll talk about a little bit more, but, something where, this catalog of varied rewards, something that's really going to, fit for the employee. So we wanted that magical moment, because you're not going to remember the cash you got a year ago, but you will remember the coffee maker that you got as a result of that award, or you're going to remember the trip you were able to take because you cashed in on some of your recognition rewards. So that was really, really important. And then the last one I'll say is, we really want to focus on peer-to-peer recognition. So I talked a little bit about that top down. I believe, the biggest way you're going to achieve a culture of recognition, or a culture of engagement through recognition, is to actually empower more people to be able to do it, right? Oftentimes we think about the recipient, but in this case, we really wanted to focus on, look, we want more people in the organization to be able to be givers of the recognition if you really want to create it. So those are kind of the big, things we were looking for. I would say, another big one was obviously technology and mobile. We knew that a lot of people,
especially now.
Yeah, right, exactly. And we wanted something that was going to, be tailored to, hey, I'm walking down the street and I think of something someone did, at work, and I want to get on my, iPhone, and just boom, seconds away, we were able to do that. You're able to do a recognition. So those were all really important criteria as we sought to, and we ended up looking for a partner in this case, Achievers, who ended up becoming our partner in this case, and a strong partnership there. But those are broadly, Chris, as we thought about what were the things we were looking for.
And without going into too much detail, why Achievers? There's so many other platforms out there that are doing this.
Yeah.
I think,
and there's a lot of strong ones. I think a couple things. One, I think they fit all of those criteria, and I think they were one of the first that really pushed mobile. And at the time, there's people doing mobile, but they were really, 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 really pushing that. Very global in nature, and they fit a lot of the ideals that we wanted, and so they were a very logical choice for us. And again, like I said, there's a lot of good people out there. And then I guess the one last thing I'd say is it offered some customization. I think some of the vendors out there, some of the partners out there, have different points of view on customization. We felt like Luck Achievers would allow us to do a little bit of that customization. So we're really happy with our selection.
It's an important point, though, because the amount of your peers I speak to on a daily basis, they get frustrated with partners that they don't customize. They can't work with them to customize the tools.
For sure,
and that can mean the difference between you working with that partner or not. So I think that's a pretty big point.
Yeah.
Obviously, everything else is also just as important. So what does it look like in terms of you're working with Achievers now? Let's talk about the implementation. What did that look like? How did that take? Did you roll it out immediately global, or did you just start with one country at a time?
This is if there's a couple things folks listening will take away. One of the things that we and look, it's not going to be the same for everybody, but one of the things that you ought to deeply consider, right, is how you implement this. And the first question we said was, is it a big bang? Do we roll it out globally? Because, right, Chris, one of the things I said was we wanted this tool to be global and cross, different countries. But we actually made the tough choice to actually, build it. So we started in one region, and then we our strategic plan was to build it, but we wanted to put together all of those implementations quickly. So we ended up starting in one of the regions. We started in North America. It was one of our bigger populations, and we started there. And our plan was to sort of build it in the other regions. So our implementation did start in North America with that big population. And one of the things that I really advocate in these is the implementation is very important. Make it exciting. Put some thought into it, and it's a little bit easier if you do that region to region, and so you can focus, kind of a lot of central resources in doing it region to region. So we started with North America, and if I could just pause for a second and talk a little bit about the platform, just so everyone understands it. It's an online platform. You recognize people, and you can in this platform you can choose if it's just social or if it's monetary and social, and so. What I mean by that is, it's a platform where you can put comments, you can recognize people under social non-points or non-monetary. Your messages are just going out on what a great job somebody did on a project or, whatever the situation was. And then there's the other alternative, which is points-based, right? And so you basically, and behind the points are some monetary value. And so in our case, we launched in North America, social and points-based. So if I wanted to go on, Chris, and recognize you, if you were an employee at the organization, I go onto this platform really easily. I type in your name. I write up really quickly, could be a sentence, could be 2, could be 5, on what you did and share that. And then, you get some choices as to, how many points you want to award. And everybody, as I say, in the organization, or everyone who's eligible, or whatever region we're in, has the ability to award points to people. And, if you accumulate enough on your end, Chris, you take those points and you redeem them for, certain, gifts that's kind of, Amazon-like, right? You get on and you can kind of see.
That catalog. So inside the app, you have a catalog of things that I can redeem it.
Right. Yeah. Think of the maybe like a credit card, right? Maybe that's a better analogy, right?
What advice would you then give to everyone listening, looking back, because it isn't easy. Let's talk about two things. Let's talk about the actual strategy you used to communicate. So what are some of the things that you did there? And is there anything you'd have done differently? Let's start with the first one. What are some of the things you did? How did you communicate this? What are some of the practical things that you did?
So a couple things we'd say there. Obviously, we used the normal mechanism, announcing it on the emails, things like that. Couple different things we did in the locations, right? We made a big deal out of this, right? We all the physical offices, there were actually celebrations that we were launching this tool. So we made a big deal out of it to really raise awareness of the tool. So those are probably a little more common. I think one of the things that that was more successful was, even in advance, we built, we had basically recognition champions. And so we actually identified, depending on, the size of the region, right? But, as an example, in North America, where we have roughly, 10, 15,000 employees, we'd identify 40 to 50 recognition champions. And, it was their kind of job to go out and communicate in their circles about the new program. And they continue to actually, in addition to implementation, they continue to be champions, but, really trying to boots on the ground, right? Get people talking about this. And, so a combination of things, Chris, right? We want to make sure we address things physically in the office, in person. We did some things online, and then we, just made sure we had a lot of things, on the ground. Of course, we had executive messaging around it. Our executives were talking about it, and they're fully supportive. But we kind of want to come at it a number of different ways. So, I mean, I think there's not much I would say we would do differently. I'll talk maybe a little bit about the design of it, and maybe some things you do differently. But the communication and the implementation went quite well. Maybe a little bit more executive push on it, which is I think is always important. But maybe getting a little more there.
Kind of bring us into the future where we are now. What do things look like? What differentiates Kellogg's from other companies now, from a awards perspective?
Let me share a couple things about the success of it, because I think that'll kind of bring it. I think it'll really crystallize this. Like I said, we have some regions that are in a little different spots here in terms of their implementation, but we're global. We're seeing massive recognitions between the regions. I'd say that to begin with. We have roughly, Chris, 95% adoption on this platform, and that's great. And to my point about the giving, right? We have about 70% of our population that's sending at least one recognition a month. And on the other end, on the receivers, roughly 70 to 80% receive at least one recognition a month, and a person on average gets 3 recognitions a month globally.
That's amazing.
So think about that for a second, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
40 roughly, if my math is right, 12 times 3, roughly 40 engaging, well, most time very engaging, but 40 recognition moments throughout the year. And so if you traditionally think about your models, right, you get sort of recognized once or twice, 3 times a year publicly, right? Or maybe not publicly, 40 engaging moments for an employee a year. That's pretty special. And that's the type of thing that we're talking about, which you get to that point and you can really move and change cultures, right? Mm-hmm. When you do that. And again, this is coming top down, bottoms up, peer to peer, it's coming from a lot of different directions. So that was pretty powerful in terms of, the results. Saw our opinion scores go up on recognition in terms of people feeling that way. And, we had some positive effects on turnover, which was great.
Something you said to me, which I want to mention in our last call as well, is that you said, and there's like, you've almost gamified it because it's a monthly use it or lose it reward system. Yeah. And I thought that was pretty cool for everyone. Tell everyone a bit about it. Use it or lose it.
This is another important, it's really cool. And it's, I think another, really important strategic advice I give to people, but we, I think, as you would imagine, some people, some skeptics, right? People that are really, that understand the sort of formal models. One of the things that we did in most of our regions, I would say, is we have a use it or lose it. And we do it on a monthly basis, right? So we're kind of keeping it top of mind for people all the time. And so in that points allocation to everyone in the organization, we allot a monthly budget, and employees have to use it before the month ends. And if they don't, they simply use it. It doesn't carry over.
Is that a new thing? Is that a new thing you added, or was that already part of the platform? Just out of interest, is that something that you came up with, or was that already part of the platform?
Well, I mean, in the platform, you can choose what you do, but we actually chose that right away. And we did that because we wanted that frequency. And in some, admittedly, in some regions, we don't do it exactly like that. But I would say 70% of our people worldwide are on this budget, use it or lose it. So it creates this sort of idea that, okay, well, hey, look, once a month or more, I need to be thinking about this. And we've gotten a lot more adoption and usage as a result. And, and it's not right. If we didn't do it, our fear was that people would sort of back end load it, right? And you get all these recognitions in December and later in the year. And we didn't want that. We want a culture of consistent, constant recognition. And so really went down this path of saying, use it or lose it. And it's been really, really effective. Now we get a little bit of, back end on the month ends. We get a little bit of that, but we'll settle for that. That's okay.
Well, it makes sense now when you talk about number before about the average is 3 times per month that someone's been recognized. Now it makes sense
right.
as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a massive driver of that as well. And is there, I was going to kind of jump into how you've leveraged the platform during the pandemic. But is there anything else that you wanted to cover on this first?
No, I'd love to get into the pandemic. This is really special.
I think the work that you do, and you're talking about the mental health aspect as well, it's kind of taken on a whole new meaning over the last 8 months. So talk us, through how you've leveraged the platform during the last kind of 8-9 months.
Yeah. So again, we've been really focused in the pandemic, really getting to our total health framework. And one of the things that this tool does, I think 2 areas that it really focuses in on is social health, as I talked about, right? So our definition of social health is being healthy from the perspective of connectedness in your personal life to your communities, your families, friends, and also, just as importantly, connectedness to your employees and work and your profession and all of that. And then the second big thing is just, obviously, there's a financial health component to it. And since we do actually have a monetary aspect to this. But so in the pandemic, I think there was a real big need, right? As in many organizations, I've heard this from, just to say, not being in the office, we have to create connection points. Yeah. And there was no more logical choice than using, kind of our Achievers platform here to build those social connections. So that was one objective. Another objective, as you can imagine, a lot of people working remotely, working from home, are getting a lot less activity. I actually track this, Chris. When you go to the office, even if you don't exercise, right? If you go to the office and do your normal routine, you get about 4,000 to 6,000 steps in a day. And guess what? When you're at home and you don't and you don't exercise, you get roughly 1,000 steps a day. So over a long period of time, it's really unhealthy behavior. And so one of the things we wanted to do is use actually the tool. So I'll get to the point here, right? But we use the tool in a number of different ways. We focused on awarding people for doing healthy activities. So, we had a water challenge, right? We were focused on making sure that people are hydrated the proper way, and hydration is a big thing. And we did a water challenge, right, during the pandemic, and challenged people to drink 8 glasses of water a day. And,
just posted a photo of them drinking the water.
Simple as that. No, it wasn't a photo. It was just on the honor system, right? And so we did that. The other big thing that we did was just company wide, like really trying to push. I'll just give you one example, but pushed a lot of physical activity, right? And so we did a virtual 5K. Sponsored by our CEO, who is a big runner and, really into this. And so we made a big deal out of, hey, get out of the desk, go do a virtual 5K, whether it's a walk or a run or whatever it was. And we added a component of Achievers points to that, on top of, making a charitable donation. And, we roughly had 2,000 employees that did this. Was just amazing. We had some real, the more powerful aspect of that, though, was the stories that people shared with each other on, how did it, what are some creative things that you've done to try to get more physical activities? How did you involve other people in this? People involving their kids, their pets, in all of this. We did two more that I'd actually like to highlight here. And, so the idea here is the idea here is these campaigns, right? These, we're trying to drive some behavior. We had another campaign that where we asked employees to identify somebody who was helping them, another employee that was helping them through, encouraging them to do a healthy habit, right? And so whether that was a manager that was encouraging you to take your time off, your vacation time, which was a big issue, a lot of people weren't taking it, or whether there was a manager or a peer that was encouraging you to do physical activity. We had 4,000 people post a story or a comment on that, and whether there was points based around it or not wasn't the point here. But we had 4,000 on our platform stories shared about a manager or a fellow employee that was encouraging you to do a healthy habit. And then right now we're in the middle of identify a hero, someone that's been a hero through this pandemic for you, and just the amazing stories, engaging stories that people are sharing. It's just been amazing. So we've used it as a big tool to drive some behavior and to do a lot of sharing and foster that connectedness that we talk about, because it's a big aspect of health, right? We don't put as much emphasis on it as we need to.
Mm-hmm. And probably one of the biggest challenges that we hear from our listeners is how do we get that connectivity in this new remote world that we're in, and the fact that you've been able to link that in, forget about the rewards for a second, just the value of people connecting and helping each other, and the bonds that builds, and it's just going to really help people, especially from a mental health point of view. It's like, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one. Yeah. I'm struggling through this as well. And I can't believe the numbers sound incredible. Also, talk to us about Ali.
Yeah. So there's a broader theme to all of this, right? I mean, one of the things that it's right in our title here, right? Engagement. So one of the things we do is we don't think about this as a recognition tool. This is an engagement tool. And I think that's a really important thing to think here. So we not only use this for recognition, but we use it for a lot of other things as we talk about being, socially connected. But the other thing that we've done, and we've used the tool, because we got so many people that are on this tool, it becomes like a daily tool for people. As part of the platform, you can actually do some employee feedback or hearing voice of employee, right? And so I know many in traditional models, right? Many companies once a year, a couple times a year, do these big employee opinion surveys, which we do as well. Really powerful tool, great. But a great complement to that was in the Achievers platform. There is a more frequent employee feedback tool. So it asks you, once every couple of weeks, it asks you how you're feeling at work. And it's this automated tool, right? And so right when you get into the Achievers platform, this thing pops up and asks you how you're feeling and goes through a series of questions if you're interested in answering, of course, how you're feeling, what feedback you have for the organization, for the company. And obviously it's all done on an anonymous basis. And, managers then can see, obviously without names, but if they have a certain amount of employees, a critical mass, they can actually use that information kind of real time, right? To make some changes, to think differently about, some of the things that they're doing from managerial standpoint. So been a really effective tool to complement kind of our normal, bigger, once a year employee opinion surveys, and to do something a little more frequently and have it all done, kind of very easily, right? We don't have to communicate this. It's just there, right in front of you.
And also it probably feels less intrusive. It's not like, oh, the annual survey's here, I got to fill this in.
Yeah, right.
It's like a nice nudge you fill in as well. So that doesn't seem crazy that we used to kind of do the annual survey.
Yeah, right.
People still do it, but it does seem so prehistoric in the way that interact.
The other thing, by the way, just as if you don't mind, I just talk a little bit about making it more of an engagement tool. We're doing other things with it too, right? So talked about the check-ins on the employee survey, but things from identifying and amplifying when people have service milestones, birthdays, right? Things like that were, just more engaging types of things.
Mm-hmm.
We just started putting in, I know many companies do this where they try to set up people in different functions of the organization to get to know each other, right? So to build your network and meet people in other areas. One of the things that we've been able to do, which has been particularly special in the pandemic as well, we have this concept of coffee chats. And in this case, it's obviously a virtual coffee chat, but the tool actually randomly pairs you with somebody else in the organization, and builds connections, and you have kind of it sets you up, and you meet, you get to know each other, you learn a little bit about a different function on another potential employee or leader in the organization, and it automates everything for you. So just another example of how it's enabling social health in your organization.
And is this linked with your kind of video tools as well? Kind of automates everything?
Yeah. Yes.
Wow. That's pretty exciting. How often does that happen?
So, I mean, it'll pair you up, and if you want to do this, it'll pair you up, and then 30 days later, it'll well, not 30 days, maybe sooner than that. It'll ask you, how's the meet? How did it, work out? Are you ready for, potentially meeting somebody else? And so it'll kind of do this on a constant basis over the period of a couple of weeks.
Exciting. That's quite exciting. Yeah. You don't really know who you're going to, and I'm sure the engagement, but also longer term, the innovation that's going to come out of that and connecting people that perhaps would never have connected before.
And also from a business standpoint, right? I mean, it makes our employees a little more versatile, right? We want HR people to know what you're doing in procurement. We want our finance function to know what they're doing in, legal, right? I mean, we want to build a lot of those, connections, and there's a business, kind of objective in all of this as well.
Well, that was a lot to take in. It was very amazing, and I don't even know where to start. It's super exciting. And also, just throughout this conversation, I could see how excited you are, like the energy and passion for what you do. How has this changed the work that you and the team do from the traditional, total rewards to where you are now? Even over the last few years, you've come a long way. How has it changed the work that you do on a daily basis and the impact you can have on the business?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, look, right as I started, I mean, it's been sort of a realization of the things that we are trying to do, right? Broaden what we mean by rewarding employees, right? Broaden, tie this into the employee experience. All of those things have been, these are, by the way, really strong connection points, right, with your talent function, with various different HR functions. So it has been great in enabling, collaboration with others in the organization. And it's really kind of stepped our total rewards colleagues, maybe out of their comfort zones, but that in a very positive way. So that's been an amazing thing. And just to be able to realize one of those big areas of total health, right? Social health that people don't think of, but this is duh, here's a great kind of tool to be able to do it and demonstrate the power of social health and how it can positively impact the overall health of an employee. So it's just been an incredible journey, and just so many different things that it's been able to do for us.
Mm-hmm. And you're just at the beginning.
Just at the beginning, right? We're as I mentioned, we're a little bit, probably a year into the EMEA launch. So there's a lot of things we can do with this and make it more and more of an engagement hub.
Well, Sanjay, thanks so much for taking the time to come on the show. It's been a real pleasure, and I'm sure I've enjoyed it, and I'm sure everyone else listening on LinkedIn. I didn't even have a chance to look at the LinkedIn comments because I was so engaged. So sorry, everyone on LinkedIn. But as well, I was enjoying the conversation too much. Before we wrap up, if there's a parting piece of advice that you'd give to your peers out there that are on a similar journey or are planning something, what would that be? And then also, where can they connect with you if they want to say hello and reach out?
Sure. Just real quick on the advice, be thoughtful about this. There's different ways to do it and build it, right? Start small, build it in various functionality and various things you can do. And you'll just be amazed at what you can do to really raise the level of engagement in your organization. So thank you, by the way, Chris. I really appreciate it. My pleasure to be able to talk about something I'm so passionate about. In terms of connecting with me, of course, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So folks want to reach out to me. I'd love to share a story. So I'd love to hear what you're doing. And if I can be of any help to anyone, I'm happy to do it.
Fantastic. Well, look, for everyone listening on LinkedIn, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, share. Take a moment now to tag in your colleagues and peers that you feel would gain value as well. We really want to share as much the knowledge and experience of everyone as possible. If not already subscribed, follow us here. Also, go and follow Sanjay over on LinkedIn. We'll leave a link to his LinkedIn profile in the comments section. Also, special thanks to our friends at Achievers for supporting the show, and also for all the incredible work that you're doing with Sanjay and the impact that you're having. Apart from that, have a fantastic weekend, everyone, and we'll look forward to seeing you again on Monday. Bye for now. See you later, Sanjay.
Thanks. Take care.